How's it going, guys? I finally found a kind of cool place in my apartment to make these videos. I got this awesome little tripod stand off of Amazon, so I got all my books and my trophies so I look successful over there, and my luggage and things that I haven't unpacked from weeks ago. But anyways, guys, I don't know what episode this is, but again, back with another nutrition education video. This one's going to be, I think, really important for most people. It's going to be about sugar and kind of how much is too much. This tends to come up a lot in our initial consults with our nutrition clients because people usually ask about fiber, and then I'll usually explain fiber and sugar and kind of the relationship. So again, if you're a new client, like maybe just a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months, you may have already heard this, maybe a little redundant. If you're kind of an older client, maybe this will be a good refresher for you. And maybe if you were a new client, we just didn't even touch upon it in our initial consult, this may be new for you, okay? But rather simple concept, but again, a question we get a lot from our clients is how much sugar is too much sugar? Kind of should they have a sugar goal like they have a fat, carb, protein, fiber goal? We're gonna touch upon those things today, okay? So, the first thing, we're gonna break this down into kind of 3 parts, okay? The first one's gonna be just understanding the problems with too much sugar, and we're gonna define how much too much is in a little bit, okay? But the 2 major problems with too much sugar, what can occur when you have too much sugar, the first one, it's going to easily lead to a caloric surplus, okay? And again, if your goal is fat loss, this is certainly not going to help your case. I think in episode 1, we went over the X's and O's. You have to be in a calorie deficit to be losing weight, okay? So dietary sugar is going to be very, very easy to ramp up your calories. That's not to say if you were to eat in a calorie deficit, with a lot of that being added sugar, that you wouldn't lose weight. You certainly would, but you'd probably be a lot more hungry than you were if that's a little bit less added sugar and you had more fibrous carbohydrates in there, okay? So very easily it can lead to a calorie surplus, and of course that will lead to gaining weight, more specifically to over fat. Again, if you're in a muscle gain phase, maybe in a body recomposition phase, where your calories are a little bit higher, then probably your added sugars can be higher as well. But again, most people we work with, their first goal is normally going to be fat loss. So again, the primary reason why it's going to be not so wise to have a high sugar diet, even if you can't fit it into your macros, because probably only a matter of time before you go over your maintenance calories and no longer lose weight. The second part here is to displace essential nutrients, okay? So most of the time, added sugar in products, think like soda, cupcakes, things like that, don't really have a lot of essential nutrients, meaning vitamins and minerals. So again, if you have a big, say if you're on 200 grams of carbohydrates and half of that is added sugar, well, the only really way you're gonna eat enough carbs to meet those essential vitamins and minerals is to go over your total carbs, okay? So that's why we always want people to first have their fruits and vegetables figured out so they can meet these essential nutrients. And then once those are met, then we can add in kind of the goodies, the added sugars, just to make sure we can sustain our diet. We don't want to be overly restrictive, okay? Now on to part 2 of the video. Here we're going to talk about the problem with tracking your sugar intake. Again, very common question we get from newbies who we work with is, should they track their sugar, just like their fat, carb, protein, and fiber? Because if you're tracking, say on MyFitnessPal, it will show you that sugar all the time, and it always shows you what's recommended, and you're probably going to be over that sugar because we tend to have very high carb diets. People tend to freak out, right? It's very common. People think sugar is bad. We should be avoiding sugar, okay? So the first problem is food labels don't distinguish between added sugar and naturally occurring sugar, okay? So let's say if you're going to drink a glass of milk with your whey protein, that's going to track, say, maybe I think 1 cup of milk has 12 grams of carbs, and they're all going to be from lactose, a sugar, okay? So again, that is just naturally found in milk. That's not added sugar, but it's just going to put all of those 12 grams of carbs into your sugar bank, okay? Same thing if you have an apple or a banana, it's naturally occurring in those foods, but it's going to put it in your sugar bank, okay? So let's say you have a cup of milk, an apple, and a banana. That may put you at 40, 50 grams of sugar for the day, okay? And you've had no junk food, your sugar still may be a little bit high. Now you add on top of, maybe you had half a cup of ice cream, that's 20 grams of sugar. Maybe you had some Gatorade when you trained, that's 20 grams of sugar. Now you're at 90 grams of sugar already, okay? But again, half of that is naturally occurring, half of that is added, okay? So you can't really track it diligently because all food labels don't distinguish between added and naturally occurring, okay? Again, the second point there, they're all blended together on a food label. So my third point there is just don't bother tracking it. Again, you can be aware of the number, but I don't really want my clients adjusting their nutrition based on that sugar number. We're going to adjust it based on something else we're going to talk about in part 3. Third and final part of this video now, we're going to get into the what to do about sugar, okay? So there's going to be two main things you want to focus on, okay? The first one is I want to be over my minimum fiber goal, okay? The easy way to think about this is 20 grams should be your minimum for women and 30 grams your minimum for men. Okay, that's really easy numbers if you want to remember that. 20 for women, 30 for men. We want to get a little more specific. We like to do at least 10% of your total carb intake. Okay, so that kind of gauges up and down based on the total carbs you're eating. Because obviously a woman eating 130 carbs is going to be a lot harder to hit that 20 grams of fiber than someone having 210, right? So again, if you're on 200 carbs, even if you're a man or a woman, you can think about 10% of that, 20 grams of carbohydrate being a good baseline for you, okay? Let's just stick with this 20 and 30 for simplicity of this video, okay? You wanna make sure you're hitting that every single day. Hit your minimum fiber, that's step 1. Step 2 now is to be under your max carbohydrates. So again, if you're a client with us, you have a range of carbs, let's call it 225 to 250. You do want to stay under that 250 mark. Again, if it's training day, non-training day, whatever. Stay under your max carbs, okay? So over your minimum fiber, under your max carbs. You probably know where this is going, okay? So let's give an example of a male on 250 grams of carbohydrates, say trying to lose weight, okay? So this is a pretty easy trick that if you're over your minimum fiber and under your max carbs, there's only so much junk you can fit in between that, okay? So let me slide this over here, and let's kind of just say this is that 250 mark for our guy, and let's call him Chris, okay? So if you've eaten food before, in terms of you tracked your macros, you understand that to hit this 30 grams of fiber, he can't just eat like pure fiber, right? Which means that if he's going to eat 30 grams of fiber, he may have to eat the equivalent of like 125, 150, 175 grams of carbohydrates just to meet that, right? Because let's say you eat a potato, it may have 50 grams of carbs and only 7 grams of fiber, okay? So just to accumulate this 30 grams, he's probably going to, let's call this 0 grams of carbs here at the very bottom. To meet this 30 gram of fiber mark, he's probably going to have to eat at least half of his carbs to do that. Okay, that's not a little more than half, but again, you see what I'm saying. He's probably got to be around this 125, 150 mark just to hit that fiber. Okay. Now, let's say he's eaten enough fruits and vegetables to hit that fiber mark. The only way this is going to be too much sugar is if it contributes to him going over his max carbs. Okay, so again, the only way you can really cheat this system is if this fiber intake is not met, right? So let's say his fiber is down here and he's under his carbs. Well, now this is a bigger gap. He still can have too much sugar there. Or he actually met his fiber intake at 30 grams, ate enough carbs to do that, but it ended up, his sugar intake took him over that 250 mark. Okay, so again, it's a very easy way, it looks like a little football play, very easy way to police yourself. If you're over your fiber, under your carbs, there's only so much room you have there to fit in your junk. And I almost promise you're not having too much sugar if you're doing those two things. And I almost can promise you, if your fiber is too low or your carbs are too high, it's probably the added sugar that's doing that. Again, not in all cases, but it's probably more correct than not. And the only asterisk here comes in with functional fiber. Okay, so This comes into play with something like the One Bars by Oh Yeah Nutrition, or a Quest Bar is very popular. Again, those may have 12, 15 grams of fiber in just a bar, okay? While that fiber is functional, it probably does have some like colon benefits. It is obviously not giving you much vitamins and minerals, which you'll be getting from fruits and vegetables, okay? So again, you can kind of cheat this if you're a man who's trying to eat 30 grams of fiber and half of that's from a Quest bar. That's not really what we're looking for, okay? So if you routinely consume these products, it's gonna add to your fiber intake on MyFitnessPal or whatever you're using. I don't want you to like not track it or try to like remove the fiber. That's too complicated, but try not to hit this minimum number of fiber anymore. Now add like 10 to 15 grams. Whatever the functional fiber it gave you, now try to add that to your minimum fiber intake. Because again, we're having this as sort of a proxy for us to consume enough fruits and vegetables. And if you're a male or even female worse, 20 grams of fiber, if you have 15 in a bar, you're pretty much almost guaranteed to get that, right? But then again, you probably are at risk for eating too much added sugar because again, you're not really having those fruits and vegetables. To say if you have 21 grams of fiber and 15 came from a Quest bar, you probably didn't have a lot of fruits and vegetables that day, okay? So again, take home message here is, guys, if you want to control that sugar intake, it's a simple 2 steps. Hit your minimum fiber, which is 20 grams for women, 30 grams for male, or if you want to get more specific, it's 10% of your total carbs for that day. That's step 1, over your minimum fiber. Step 2 is under your max carbs, okay? And if you're not using a lot of functional fiber to hit that mark, I pretty much guarantee you, you're not over consuming sugar, okay? That's it for the video, guys. Hopefully this was informative. Again, we get this question a lot, so I wanted to tackle it. Hopefully it doesn't come off too complicated. A little 2-step process, see how much sugar you're actually eating. That's it for this week, guys. Thank you for being patient with me as I started up my dietetic internship this Monday. I worked like 35 hours this week, so it's going to be a long 33 weeks, but I'm down with the first one, so we're closer than we were last week, and I'm excited to continue on the process with you guys. So thank you.